So as we begin this new fiscal year, we thought why not to get you the best of the market voice that we have today to explain to you what should you be keeping in mind as you revise your trading strategies and investment strategies for FY26. With a very warm applause, we are now going to be welcoming Ms. Devina Mehra, founder and CMD of First Global on the program. Mom, welcome to you, Devina ma'am, and thank you so much for taking the time out. Like I said, who better than you to kickstart the new fiscal year for all our audiences? It's always been a pleasure and of course a learning experience to speak to you, to understand from the wealth of experience that you bring in, decades of looking at the markets and the various cycles that you've already seen so many times over, which is why your undying smile continues despite the 5 months of pain that we have actually seen. So thank you so much for being with us on the program. Tell us, ma'am, what is the sense that you're getting? What is the first message that you want to part to all our audiences and viewers and investors as they begin this new fiscal year with all those moving parts that I was mentioning? Uncertainty globally, tariff wars happening, 5 months of pain, so the nervousness still there, jitteriness still there, even though sanity is returning. What is the message that you'd like to tell them?
Good morning, Sakshi, to you and to your viewers. And yes, the new financial year starts. One thing which I always tell people at the beginning of a financial year, or for that matter, the calendar year, is that look at your asset allocation. So it's always a
Yes.
good time at the beginning of the year to look at how your assets are allocated between equity, fixed income, gold, real estate, if you have any, and alternative assets like crypto. And as in Google Maps, you have to first put in where you are, the starting point, before you go to where you want to be. But coming to whatever you think is a sensible equity allocation to you for you, and let me tell you, equity is money you should typically not need to touch for 8 to 10 years. That's what you should put in equity. So therefore, I also tell young people who tell me that should I put 100% in equity? No, you should not put 100% in equity, because there are always unexpected things that come up. You might lose your job, you might want to study further, there might be a medical emergency, you might want to buy a home, whatever.
Yes.
So, but whatever is your equity allocation, it is time to be invested. As you said, I mean, 5 months of pain is not much if you look at what happened in the last 5 years.
Yes.
It's only that a considerable number of the proportion of the investors have entered only in the last 5 years, and therefore they do not remember the cycles. And yeah, in fact, last year the euphoria was such that even seasoned investors were not really willing to listen to sensible talk of risk management and all that. I had family offices telling me that. I don't have unrealistic expectations. I'm happy with a 35% compounding. So that's the
Okay.
expectations that move to. And but if you, as I said, if you are in a broadly steady, well thought out portfolio skewed a little towards large caps, I don't think the risk is high at this moment. I mean, which is not to say that there cannot be any downside from here, but
Okay.
that debate, as I think must have spoken on your channel also, that 2010 to 20 was a really uh, bad decade in terms of returns for
Yeah.
Indian market. That whole decade, that 100 rupees became 230 rupees, whereas in fixed deposit itself, you would have got 200,
Exactly.
200. In dollar terms, there was no return for a whole decade. So that's what created the room for this bull run. And I don't think the large caps, you are in danger territory. In small caps, yes, because small caps, for one thing, one is the level of the index, where also there have been huge uh, you know uh,
Corrections.
corrections is like a mild word when you say that in 2008-9 the small cap index fell 80%. So that's
Yeah.
not a that's a bloodbath. And then that index level came back after 8 years. There was another mad bull run for 2 years, and then again it fell 65%, almost two-thirds. So that's the nature of that. And plus, the really important thing is that there's no use saying that I have bought this thing at 100, now it is 60, I'll wait till it is 100 again. Some of those stocks never come back. the stocks that are do well in a euphoria, often after the market falls in the next bull run, they are not the same stocks that come back. Many just disappear. Let alone small companies, even companies like Reliance Power disappeared. But even if you don't disappear, I mean, look at DLF.
Correct.
After its IPO, for after a couple of months, that price was not seen for decades, even though the company continued to operate. So always, don't get married to your stocks.
Yes.
And a stock that is down 30, 40, 50% may still be a sell. So move to what is the sensible place to be invested now. You can make it up in another strategy, in another stock. Like last year, a lot of people got out of large cap SIPs and put it into small cap SIPs.
Yes. Yes.
So, I mean, SIPs you should continue, but maybe not in the same thing where you were doing the SIP.
Perfect. So many learning points from what you've marked out for us. First, starting point is your asset allocation. Even if you're young, do not invest 100% in equity. There needs to be a well-diversified portfolio because you need to be prepared for emergencies. Don't get married to your stocks. So that's something that you should really look at. In case you made a mistake, look at a better one and, take that advice from professionals like Devina ma'am's companies. And of course, 8 to 10 years is a long term, and that is the kind of vision that you should have for the markets and when you're investing in equities. But Devina ma'am, of course this looks like a small period when we talk about the last 5 months of pain. When you look at the last 2 decades, 3 decades, because you have seen so much, I want to understand from those fresh investors, first time investors that were riding on the bull run of the first half of the FY25, and they were thinking that the markets are so resilient, there is nothing that can put down the markets. And then comes the reality check of October, and the markets could not just sustain themselves. Be it any positive news could not provide that fillip. Tell me, what is the biggest learning for these fresh investors and first-time investors, ma'am?
The learning should be that equity returns are not predictable and they are always lumpy. So there was this book on Rakesh Jhunjhunwala, which a lot of investors look up to. And to me, the real there's only one line in that book that really stood out, and that was Rakesh saying that I made a lot of money in 1989 to 92, in 2003 to 2007, and 2009 to 2011. And he said in between there were even 5 years where I made no money. So he understood and had the discipline to know that equity returns are lumpy, that
Yeah.
in 2 years you can get 5 years returns and so on. I mean,
Yes.
just to give some context, from 1994 to 2003, the net return from the Sensex was zero,
Wow.
and 9 years. And then from 2003 to 2007, the index went up 6 times. So
Wow.
that's
Yeah.
the nature of the equity markets. So that's the thing. As they say, that learn from your own mistakes, but even better if you can learn from other people's mistakes.
Fair point.
So that's why, and if you look at 18, 19 years of history, every year the index corrects for 10% plus, barring I think 3 years, and one of those 3 years was 2023. So it's only after 2 years that you saw that correction. So it was nothing unprecedented or unexpected. That's the way equity markets are. That's why it should be long term money. And one other thing which I forgot to say in the asset allocation, that you must always have allocation to global assets also.
Yes. Yes.
India
Yes.
is not
Absolutely.
worth, India is less than 5% of the world equity markets. And you're already exposed to India. Your career is in India, your home is in India. So at least on the investment front, diversify. And also this number I give often, that when I started working, the dollar was 12 rupees.
Yes.
So it is 90% in the course of a career. So when you are talking long-term financial goals, something you're saving for 10, 20, 30 years away, you cannot forget this. So, so our grandmothers were not wrong in buying gold, because
Yes.
at that time that was the only currency hedge available. Now you have more uh, global assets you can choose from, and that actually the dollar chart of gold shows that gold has been an extremely volatile asset. the chart looks good in rupee terms because it's a rupee depreciation chart essentially.
Yes,
So
yes, you have. So these
while
are a lot of. Yes, yes, ma'am.
60% from tops and so on.
Absolutely. I'm hoping that everybody is really taking all of this down with a pen and paper. Even if you don't, we are going to be chunking this out and playing it across social media. These kind of, wisdom, pearls of wisdom you rarely find. And it's, that is why we get Devina ma'am often on our channel to explain to you how do you really, know where are you making the mistakes and you avoid them. Devina ma'am, you rightly said that, global exposure is also important. But I want to know, most people then think that global exposure would mean, okay, investing maybe in a FANG or a US NASDAQ. Is that enough? Should one really look beyond it as well as, an investor who's really planning for 20, 30 years down the line kind of investment portfolio?
Yes, definitely you should look far beyond that. The reason why you hear only this in the Indian market is because most players in the Indian market don't have the expertise to tell you anything more than that. To buy the
Yes.
5, 7 US stocks, and maybe buy the 2, 3 Chinese stocks, or buy the NASDAQ ETF or something like that. The point is the US is not the world. And while it's the largest market, of course, but there are times no theme lasts forever in market, no geography, no asset class, no sector within a country. So US has done extremely well in the last 10, 12 years. That doesn't always hold. So if you look at, I talked about that period of 2003 to 2007 when India's indices went up 6 times. That same period, emerging market index overall went up 3.5, 4 times. And that period, US totally underperformed in spite of the fact that it was not coming off a high. It was already in the doldrums after the tech crash.
True.
And still that 4 or 5 years, it gave only something like 65% return when, this was the, and that's why at that time the narrative became that US is over as an economy and now it's the century of India and China, or BRICS was coined. So these are all narratives. The point is that US has been outperforming a long time, and especially some of these tech stocks. And we were watching to see when that outperformance ends. I mean, we did not made the call fully yet, but I think uh, Trump's coming has kind of hastened the end of the outperformance. That's the hypothesis. So for now, in our global funds, we have gone somewhat underweight US. We've increased fixed income component a little. We've increased Europe. We are somewhat overweight China, slightly overweight India also.
Okay.
So that's broadly what we are doing. But the point is that, as I said, the US is not the world. It's a large chunk of the world, so it is not good enough to just buy a Nasdaq ETF. If you remember, there were a whole lot of Nasdaq
Yes.
funds, etc., launched in India in 2021. And
Yes.
in real time, not in hindsight, I had said that, this Nasdaq has done extremely well for 3 years. That, this is not the time to invest. And sure enough, 2022 was a disaster. It
Yes.
was down 40%. The FANG stocks were down between 50 and 80%. And then people came and asked me that should I now exit? I said, now don't compound a
No.
bad buy with a bad sell, because a stock down 50% can still be an exit. But a major index down 40%, you are more likely to see a bounce back, which is what
Correct.
happened. In 2022, NASDAQ was almost the worst performing index in the world. And in
Yes.
2023, again became the best performing. So that's how the, giant wheel turns.
Yes, absolutely. That's the right word. The giant wheel does turn, and you really need to know, and of course, people like you are easily able to identify when the tide is turning. But retail investors often get caught in between fear and greed every time, and in this cycle, they always, tend to lose out as well. So, ma'am, you did talk about gold as well, and gold we've seen, outperform by a wide margin, 31, 33% for gold and silver for this year, vis-a-vis Nifty's return of 5% in FY25.
Right.
And now, so many people are coming to me and saying, okay, now can I invest in gold? Because it's already rallied so much. And so again, the same kind of a question. They must be coming to you as well. What are you telling them now?
So I mean that's the FOMO feeling, and we are very hardwired to have FOMO. So we
Yes.
should be careful. I always say that have gold as part of your asset allocation, except that it should not be maybe 30% or something, but have a reasonable allocation. And now is not the time to really increase that allocation. I think,
Yes.
large part of the run up has happened. And yes, last year was very good for gold. And in between, also, if you see, I think FY19 was also very good for gold. So there are years when it does very well, and that's definitely this year has been between the rupee depreciation and the dollar price. It's been a super performance, gold and silver, both of them. But I don't think that, as I said, have an allocation. Don't keep tinkering around with your allocation all the time for everything. Like equity is also, all the websites will show you that this is the 20% compounding. But if you look at the data, you will find SEBI data that the majority of equity mutual fund holders do not even hold a scheme for 2 years. So you often enter and exit at the wrong time, and that's where you have to hold yourself back and be disciplined about it and stick to some kind of asset allocation, not get carried away by greed either. So, that like when it looks at making money is very, very easy, that's when you
Yeah.
need to be cautious. That's when you should be asking that should I be invested or should I not be invested, rather than when the market has fallen.
Yeah.
And you talked about global investing, that how does the small investor do it? So this is a cause for me, because I realize that Indians typically don't invest much globally.
Sure.
And that is why we have a product that invests in all geographies, all assets starting at $10,000. So that's
Wow.
about like 8.5
Okay.
lakh rupees. And normally in a private bank, you will not get that kind of mix for less than $1 million. But I
Yes.
want people to start. So that's the whole point.
Okay, I would urge all our viewers to definitely look it up on First Global's website and find out for yourselves how you can really access that for that cost, and of course get that global exposure if you're thinking about that now. Ma'am, lastly, tell us FY26. Now, what are the key themes that you believe in equities are likely to outperform? If one is now looking at the last 5 months of correction and now is looking to increase their allocation, thinking that at least sometime, if not immediately, the market's tide will turn, what is it that they should keep in mind?
So, I mean, we of course mostly do a bottom-up stock picking, but if I look at where we have been overweight, let's say from beginning of 2024, it has been pharma, IT, auto components. So that still continues. We've added some banks and financials in our last rebalance. So we look at everything from scratch, as we say, from base zero every quarter. The last rebalance, we've added some banks and financials, though we are still underweight. In fact, we are now wondering whether to remain that underweight or not.
Yeah, yeah.
And capital goods, industrial machinery, we were overweight from October 21 to October 24. We cut back a lot. But then after the prices fell, we've added back one or two in the January rebalance. So now April is coming around. So maybe, in another 2-3 weeks, we'll make some changes. So that's still on the anvil. But I mean, the reason we do a base zero investing is that otherwise you always think that what you are holding is the best thing to hold. It's something called endowment bias. So you have to forget about what you are holding and say, today, if I had cash, where will I be?
Yeah.
So that's the picture.
Okay, and good to also know what should we, avoid at this point in time. Where do you think there is still going to be the impact of the volatility or uncertainty, or the tide is still yet far away from taking off? Where do you think people should be very, very cautious even now?
So even the small cap, micro caps, look very carefully at what you are holding and see whether those things still make sense. Otherwise, be ruthless and get out of whatever doesn't make sense. I mean, that's not a category you can say anything about as a category as a whole, because there are companies which look good there and do well, but you have to be very careful.
Okay. Ma'am, do tell us when we look at large caps at this point in time, how does one really identify the right basket of large caps and how much large caps to hold within the entire equity portfolio?
We'll be quite skewed towards that. And Of course, see, now the SEBI definition of large cap, mid cap, and small cap is such that the mid caps are also fairly large in size, because now SEBI is not giving market cap cutoffs. It is like top X number of companies, then uh, no, I think top 100 companies and 250 companies, something like that. So I'm talking just, I mean, it need not be technically large cap, but basically companies of some reasonable size and some reasonable history. And of course, then you have to look at the companies individually. You can't just buy randomly. And we believe in having a diversified portfolio. So our
Yeah.
scheme is called India Super 50. So we would typically have 50, 60 stocks at
Okay.
any point in time. So it's part of our risk management. So also that we do not want too much exposure to a single sector and so on.
Yeah, yeah. Ma'am, I do know that you never give, when we talk about the levels on the Nifty, but it's good to understand from you, where do you think are we headed into FY26? We have started to show a little bit bounce, but are we still very far away from testing those peaks of 2024 that we saw on the markets? Is it still going to be a very time-taking process?
It's very hard to predict that, Sakshi. As I said, I think we are somewhere in the bottom range, which is, as I said, not to say that we can't fall another
Yeah.
3% or 5% or something like that. But now the risk of the quantum and the probability of the fall is less than the fact that you will miss out on a big up move, because I think I've given that statistic earlier also, that in 40 odd years, if you missed out on the 10 best days, you miss out on 2/3 of the return. So if your 100 rupees had become 75,000 in 40 odd years, you miss out on 10 days, that instead of 75,000, now you are at 25,000. That's the kind of danger of missing out on the up days. And these sharp up moves always come when there is fear, uncertainty,
Yes.
anxiety. In They don't come in a mad bull run. So they will not come in the market that you saw in the first half of the last financial year. But there, the move is always gradual. The sharp moves come when the market is down. So that's why as I said, the risk reward is now that you will miss out, more likely to miss out on the up move. If there's a little bit of a down move, fine, you can, ride it out. Uh, and also you don't know whether that bottom happens next month or, 4 months from now. If you had been waiting for a correction to
Yeah.
invest, a lot of people before, when the market was at a high, said we will wait for a correction. But when the correction comes, they kind of freeze.
Yes.
So
Yes.
if I go back to COVID time, and this is on public record because it was on Twitter. So on March 2, 2020, I had tweeted that something very strange is happening. And we went totally risk averse, both in our global portfolios and India portfolios. And in the COVID fall, we were largely protected. I think we fell some
Yes.
8%, 10%. But then, just 3 weeks later, on March 23, we tweeted saying now time to be back in the market.
Yeah.
And if you have not invested, then in 5 weeks, you would have missed out a 30% move, both in India and globally. So that's the whole point, that most of the time it makes sense to be invested. When things look uncertain, in a PMS, we buy hedges. Sometimes the hedges go unused, so you just have a cost, but that's okay. I mean, you always manage for risk first.
Okay, always manage for risk first. Well, we can go on and on listening to you, ma'am. It's always music to our ears. But we'll have to let you go at this point in time, and we'll catch up with you very, very soon yet again. Hope this year turns out to be a fantastic one for you, the entire team at First Global. And of course, may you continue to, tell us and guide us all through this fiscal year, and our viewers as well, what is the right way to go about investments. Always a pleasure, ma'am. Thank you so much for taking the time out.
Thank you, Sakshi, and I hope it's a great year for everybody watching.
Thank you so much. Fantastic speaking to you, ma'am.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.